How was EDC? As long as we're talking about it, how was it this year?
It was crazy. I think every EDC, it just get bigger and bigger. I saw like a bunch of people out there. It was just nuts. And then I played 2 sets, one with Riot 10 on a back-to-back. And then I played like a solo set at Camp EDC, which is like where they have all the pool parties, you know?
Yeah.
And it was wild. It was wild. My set was the last set that the people at the camp will see before they will go to the festival. And I was like, no, like they probably won't have a lot of energy, or they probably want to just rest. And no, it was just insane. It was insane. I almost felt bad because a lot of people tweeted me like, oh my God, because of you, I'm getting to EDC at like fucking 11 p.m. or something. But it was so fun. It was so fun.
Well, I feel like the people who do the camping, those are like the hardcore fans, you know? So it's
they are.
Yeah.
They are. When they took me to play to the Camp EDC, we went through all of the camping site and to the campers and everything. And I was like, dude, these people are so strong. They're warriors because they're like rave, like full on mode rave, you know?
Yeah,
they don't
whole
care.
Time.
Yes. And I don't know. I have so much respect for ravers, honestly, because they put up with a lot of stuff, you know?
It's true, man. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I was just thinking about this the other day because like festivals in general, like not even talking about just EDC, but just like big music events in general, as a attendee, as a fan, as a concert goer, it's like festivals can be some of the most transformative, incredible experiences, but it's also always a fucking hassle, right? And it's there's always like you have to wait in lines and parking is a nightmare. And there's a million things you have to get through to actually get to that event.
Exactly.
And then the people who sign up for like, no, I'm going to stay there. I'm going to be there at 4 a.m, you know, it's impressive. It takes commitment.
It does. There's people who attend all of the pre-parties, then the actual festival, then the parties after the festival, and then they leave the festival at like 7 a.m. And I'm like, how can you do it? Please let me know. Please let me know. I mean, also age has to do a lot to do with it, of course.
Yeah.
But oh my God, these ravers are built different. But yeah, it's true. Like even for artists, you have to walk a lot to find like the artist entrance if you don't come in the artist shuttle or whatever. And that's nothing compared to what the ravers has to do. Going back to the camp, coming back to the festival, and then if you forgot something or if you want to go to the camp and grab something or take a shower, you have to walk like 20 minutes and then 20 minutes back. And then you lost your friends and there's no signal.
It's a nightmare.
It's those little details, you know?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I think it makes it just a little bit more special too.
I think you're right. Yeah. And all those little, like the no cell phone service, like that's always a big thing. But in a way, I feel like that it's almost a good thing because that way you're going to remember everything. You're not going to be on your phone, and those experiences, like, you know, you're going to have to figure it out. Like everybody finds their friends eventually, and you have a story to tell. And there's something cool about that.
There's something really cool about festivals that you just live in the present time, which is exactly what we all need to do. There's always more things you can do to live in the present, right? But festivals is just like so vivid. You know, it's so important because you get all these memories where you were just like having fun with your friends, or you found new friends or whatever. And that will stay with you forever. More like buying some clothings or like some shoes or whatever, you know? Those are like the special memories.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a thing I talk about on this podcast a lot. And I wonder what your opinion is, because for me, the longer I do this, like DJing, producing, all that, and, you know, you get to travel some crazy places, you have some cool experiences, you know, all that kind of, you play wild shows, blah, blah, blah. But when I look back and when I really like take a moment and think about, you know, the highlights and the things I'm always going to remember, it's really always the people, right? It's like the people you were with and the relationships you made, much more so. I don't know. Do you feel that way?
I 100% feel that way, even though I get to be on the other side in a way, on the artist side. I love having my friends on these bigger festivals with me, just because I know it's going to be like a once in a lifetime experience. Like there was one time where we were at EDC Mexico, and that's where I grew up, right? That's my house, my home.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of us, we were just like super drunk. I don't know what happened, but we just exited the festival through some woods, and they wouldn't let us come in because that wasn't the entrance or whatever. Like those are the type of memories that you want to keep. And even though I'm like in the other side, you know, as the artist side, festivals to me and having my friends with me is just so special, you know?
It's one of those things where I think the glitz and the glamour of it looks appealing from the outside, as far as like, oh, it must be such a crazy thing to be on stage in front of 10,000 people. And it is, of course, it's amazing. but I would say, like, when I look back at those experiences, it's not always, I'm not always thinking about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're thinking more about your friends or the people you met, right? Because you met a lot of new people. Being a DJ, you get to like meet new people every single weekend, up to the point where you don't even remember some of their names. And that sucks. And they're like, hey, do you remember me from last week? And me, I have the absolute worst memory.
Yeah.
And then besides that, you meet like all these new people every weekend. That is getting hard. It's getting hard to like keep up with it, you know?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I mean, it's a weird thing. Let me ask you, you know, because you were talking about like asking ravers the secret to staying up till 7 a.m. and all that. And this lifestyle in general, you're moving around, you're not sleeping much, you're meeting a lot of people. It's a bit of a whirlwind.
Yes.
Have you, like, over time, because you've been doing this a long time at this point, have you learned anything about the best ways for you to stay like happy and healthy doing this? Have you had to like adjust some of your, you know, the way you approach touring?
This is such a great question, because I don't think I found a way to make me being healthy while touring, right? I've been touring for like a little bit over 12 years now. The first years I was touring in Mexico, and then 5 years ago I got my visa, and then I get to tour like all over the world. But it's just so hard for me to like not get sick, or, you know, because I'm a person who always gets sick because of like when I have like climate changes, you know, being on the plane and then arriving to Vegas, which is so fucking hot.
Oh, yeah.
And then going into a restaurant and then there's full on AC on, or to the hotel, whatever. I'm so weak. My Mexican ass can take that.
No,
but,
I'm only laughing because I'm the same as you. I'm only laughing because I'm the same as you. That happens to me every time. Yeah.
It sucks, right? And I haven't kept up with that like as much as I would love to. So I'm still finding a way to actually understand how can I be this touring artist and yet be productive at the same time where I'm at my house, because I'm from Mexico. I live in Mexico City, and then I get to play every weekend in the US or Canada or whatever. So I'm only in Mexico City during maybe Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and that's it.
Yeah.
Then I have to go into the airplanes again, and I take at least 6 planes every single week. 6 planes is just, oh my God.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And when I went to the gym, that helped a lot. That was last year. But then I broke my foot. and then I couldn't do exercise.
That's tough.
Doctor told me that I needed to rest for at least 6 more months. And then the rest, I had to do like PT, and I'm still doing PT. So I can't go like full on to the gym right now. And that's killing me in a way, that's killing
tough.
me in a way because it helped a lot doing exercise. It just, it made me like feel way more energetic, more happy.
Well, it's
so
good
I don't have
mentally
that.
too, right? Like it's good for your emotions. It's good for your mind. Like, yeah, that's tough.
So right now I'm at that process where I have to heal my foot. And then once it's healed, I'm like going back to the gym again because I noticed that it helped a lot. Also, I have to like get at least like 6 hours of sleep at least. Otherwise, I'm not functioning at all. So I have to make like a schedule of, okay, so you're going to play at 10 p.m. and then you're coming back to the hotel at 12. So you have like 4 hours sleep before you go to the airport and like that, And don't miss those hours because to me that's hell if I don't sleep that much.
But that's so smart. That I don't think a lot of people do that, like actually figuring out how much time you're going to have after the show, because some people, you get caught up in the energy and you want to just, some people hang out, some people drink, some people party, whatever it is. But I think that's so smart is actually looking at like, no, what time is the flight tomorrow? Like, what time do I need to be in bed?
Exactly.
We kind of have to set rules.
Yes. And I kind of cheat on that when I play festivals because, they're festivals. They're like big, like EDC Vegas, and I get to be with my friends and that's fine. But when I'm touring, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there's no way I'm staying more at the club. Like I'll meet and greet some people in the public and maybe that's it. But there's no way I'm staying for like more drinks or I don't even drink when I'm touring like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because I'll be dead. So there's no way. So I'm not drinking. And then I do have like a schedule and just to coming back to the hotel and sleep at least like 5 or 6 hours.
Well, that's good. That's good. Yeah. I mean, that's for this to be sustainable at all, you really got to figure out how to do that. Because I mean, just in general, when we started, I was laughing because when I asked you the question originally of like, how do you stay healthy? And then you were like, well, I tour. And I was like, well, yeah, right. Touring by definition is like unhealthy. It's not a normal thing,
It's not. I was talking to a friend of mine. She's a flight attendant. And so she takes a bunch of flights just like us. And she was like, dude, so people told me that after like certain amount of flights, your body gets so dehydrated that it's like impossible for you to get back the way you were. So you have to drink tons of water and like do all this stuff to compensate,
Right.
All these flights. And they do feel like us. They do feel like shit sometimes, But it's just because, like you say, this is not like something that normal people will do, like jump on 6 flights per week. It's just
our bodies aren't designed to do it, So
that's true.
Feel like everything you do is you're sort of making a deal with your body to like, let's get through this. And then once we get home, like, you can, then we'll get sick and then I'll let you rest. And, it's all just sort of making deals with your body as you go. It's a weird.
It's basically your body just compensating. That's it. You're 100%. Not actually living. You're just compensating for what you did every weekend, which sucks. But I wouldn't change it for anything. I wouldn't change my job for anything in this world. And as much as I'm saying like, oh, I'm tired, whatever, I'm just so grateful to have this and to be able to do this. Fuck no sleep. I don't care. Like, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
If I die young, then who cares? Because I get to live like all these experiences. I mean, hopefully I'll die like when I'm 80 years old, right? But fuck it. Like I'm so grateful to have this job and these opportunities to play in front of thousands of people and just meeting new people and meeting new just being in a different country, every month. It's just so rewarding,
Oh, 100%. And I mean, we're all going to die from something, right? So it's like,
right?
we might as well make it fun. But
yes,
it makes me want to ask you, like the traveling, I relate strongly to that, like getting to meet new people and cultures and like just see how people live in different places. I find all that fascinating. Did you have much experience traveling or meeting different kinds of people earlier in life? Or was music kind of the thing that like really started opening up your world that way?
So I was born in Mexico City. My dad is from Mexico City, but my mom, she's from Barcelona, Spain. So she was going on vacations to Mexico City, and then she met my dad, and then she was like, I'm staying here. And then when I was younger, me and my brother, we used to spend like all our summers in Barcelona with my mom's family. So that was like my first ever traveling experience. I would get there and be there for like 3 months or something, just straight 3 months or 4 months, depending on the vacations from our schools. And then I would just come back to Mexico and stay here. But that was like the first ever traveling experience. And that was when I was like maybe 6 years old. Something like that.
So you got some memories then, right? Like formative memories of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I study psychology. I graduated from psychology. And right when I graduated, I started DJing. But before I DJ for like festivals and clubs, I was DJing for, HP computers.
Oh, sure.
Where they had like this, they had this thing with Dr. Dre. It was like some headphones with beats by Dr. Dre.
Yeah, the beats.
Yeah. They were so famous back then. So they needed DJs to come play and like travel with them and show people outside of Mexico what we were doing here in Mexico City with Dr. Dre and HP technology. And they needed people who speak in English. So I was like, hey, that's me.
Perfect.
And they hired me, and I was an HP DJ for like 2 years. And I was traveling with them. And I went to Miami. I went to Boston. I went to all of these parts from Mexico City just to tell people what we were doing on the music side. Yeah. And then I started like doing festivals and clubs and all that.
Right. And was that the first time you were coming to the States when you were doing that like ambassador kind of gig?
No, the first time was just like for like a tourist. I think I went to Six Flags in Texas or something. That was like my first ever US, or Miami or something like that, like on a vacation with my boyfriend. But yeah.
Nice. So you've done some traveling, and I mean that's like that's got to be interesting because to me, both Mexico City and Barcelona, like those are two of the coolest cities on the planet. Like both incredible cities with like a real mix of cultures and people, and something for everybody, but also very unique. Like there's nowhere else like those two cities.
Oh my God, Barcelona is my favorite city. It just has something so special to it. The architecture, the people, the food, just everything in general. I always tell my family that when I'm like retired and when I'm like 60 years old or something, I will go and live in Barcelona because I just love it so much. And you have the sea, you have all these amazing restaurants, and I love the weather. I just love Barcelona so much. But right now, living in Mexico City, I just love it so much that I do have the possibilities to go live in the US, and it might be better for me. But I love living here so much. And we're not that far that I just rather live here and stay with my family, my friends, my boyfriend, my dogs, you know. I have my
Yeah.
entire studio here at my house. And I enjoy living here in Mexico City because it has something else too, you know, like
Yeah.
something special that
It's
I'm
an
really
incredible
drawn to.
city. Yeah, it's an incredible city. And I was wondering that because I'm sure you've gotten that pressure either from, other
Yeah.
DJs or management or whatever it is. It'd be like, why don't you move to LA? Which
Yes.
is, everyone's told they should go to LA, but I don't know if I really buy that. Like, I kind of feel like, I think for you and for what you've been able to build and what you're doing right now, like, I don't know. I don't know if it looks the
I
same
know.
if you move to LA super early in your career, you know?
I don't think there will be a need for me to actually go. I can do collabs with my friends, producers, just here on Zoom or just sending stems. That's fine with me and with them. But I don't feel like the need to actually go live in LA, you know? But I do love LA, and it feels like kind of like home to me because there's a
Yeah.
lot of Latin people there. Also that San Diego, Miami even. But I don't feel like there's a need, you know, like an actual need.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean,
Yeah.
it makes me want to ask you too, like growing up in Mexico City, what kind of music was around you when you were like a little kid? Like what
Oh,
were you
God.
hearing? What left an impression on you? Like if you just think back to those years, like what kind of music was around you?
So, when I was a little girl, I used to listen to everything that was on the radio, just like mainstream pop Mexican stuff. But I grew up with an older brother, right? So he was like always listening to electronic music. And when I was growing up, he would just like tell me like, "Hey, what are you listening to?" And I'm like, "Well, this group from Mexico City, like pop." He was like, "No, don't listen to that. That shit." And he will put me like electronic music from that back then, which was like trance music. The earliest years of Tiesto, you know.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
introduced me to Paul Van Dyke, Above and Beyond. Just everything in general, like trance music. And then that's when I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? Right? And I just fell in love immediately. And we were lucky enough to have MTV at our houses. And so we will look at MTV from back then. I'm talking about like early 2000s, late 90s.
Yeah.
And I would look to like all these amazing new metal groups like Stone Temple Pilots and stuff, or even like Groove Armada, Fatboy Slim. And I will freak. I was like, dude, this is my thing. I think this is what I want to listen from now on. And I feel like that's why I like dubstep so much, because it's like a mixture between electronic music and then like new metal and hip hop, you know, in a way, you know?
Yeah.
Dubstep is like kind of like the best of both worlds to me. It has the same vibe from new metal and doing all the mosh pits and stuff, but it has that electronic dance music too, vibe to it, you know? So
Yeah,
that's why I love
it's
it so much.
I know what you mean. I mean, I was a new metal kid too around that point, and
Yeah.
it really felt revolutionary. And it's funny because, like, you go back and you listen to some of that music, and it didn't. Not all of it aged well. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but I will
True.
say, like, there was this thing about the scene of that sound at the time that now that I'm thinking about this, I might be wrong what I'm about to say, but I'll say it anyway, which is that I think nu metal was like one of the first genres that almost predicted what was going to happen with music in general, with sort of cultures and sounds all blending together. Because when you were just talking about like listening to Groove Armada and then you go and you listen to Limp Bizkit or whatever it is, there's like a through line to that where nu metal sort of took like a little bit of the rhythms of hip hop and a little bit of the aggression of metal and a little
Yeah.
bit of kind of like the cutting edge thing of electronic music. The production side of it was a little
Yes.
different with new metal. And now that's like what everything is, right?
No,
Like
that's
everything's
it.
just mixing it.
And I remember just watching Limp Bizkit live, and they will go live with his own DJ, with their own DJ, you know, and they will make him like, he was making scratches.
Yeah.
Linkin Park too. So to me, that was like a Swift, you know, in my brain, and it was like, wow, this is so original and so cool that I wanted to do this, like, you know, in a way. But
Were
that was
you,
when I was like younger, yeah.
Yeah,
And then I
What,
just like started to listening to the electronic music back then. But when I started DJing, my teacher, no, he will teach me with techno music and stuff, and I thought that was like the only electronic music there was. I thought it was only techno and tech house, and I was like, okay, yeah, well, this is cool, but there was something missing. This
yeah.
aggression, energetic. There was something missing. So I stood with techno for like 2 months, and then I was like, no, this is not for me. I need something else. And then I started like researching, and then I found electro, which back then electro, it was like said, you know,
Yeah.
the old Calvin Harris, it was electro too, and just stuff like that. And that kept me like going for like the next few years. But when I listened to dubstep, I was like, oh my God, this is it.
What was like some early dubstep that you heard? Do you remember the first few things you heard?
It was like Caspa, all of the circus guys, Dr. P, Flux, Roscoe, all of that. It was just mind blowing to me because it's kind of that OG dubstep that has like a simple, it has simple drums, a simple melody, but it's just so skank, you know, it just pushes you to move your body. And I love that. Almost like reggae in a way, you know?
I know what you mean. Yeah. Which, I mean,
Yeah,
it comes
I love
from
that.
the original dubstep comes from reggae, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm doing. And I've been DJing that for like 10 years now. So,
yeah, no, it's super interesting. So, I mean, what, like, before we get into all of that and like your path as a DJ, let me just ask you this, because I like to ask this because I think it always connects back to the career in interesting ways. But, you know, you were saying you heard electronic music, you immediately took to it, you wanted to be involved with it. What kind of a kid were you? Like, were you always a performer? Were you the kid who wanted to be on stage? Like, what kind of a kid fell in love with electronic music?
I was a kid. I was that kid that people at my school will ask me to get them CDs, you know?
Okay,
because of my taste in music. Like, back then, where everyone was just listening to like what was on the radio, I was like the little kid who used to listen to all this weird stuff. And they were like, hey, Jess, would you do me a CD, please? And I would just burn like a bunch of CDs and just gave them to them. And they know that they could just come up to me to talk about music, you know? But
you were the tastemaker.
I don't know, because some of those songs were weird, man. But yeah, and it would take forever, you know, because it was like on that LimeWire. All that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was a little kid, I would just go to my dad owned a studio at my parents' house, and I would lock myself in just to listen to music and dance. And my dad couldn't come in and receive his clients because I was just blasting my little stereo. And they were like, "Oh my God, Jessica, you have your own room for that. Just let me do my thing." But that was that kid, you know, I was that kid that would just dance and sing and just lock myself and do that.
So
And
it
I
was
was
just,
kind of,
it was like a direct connection. Because I think some people, they get into it because it's like, oh, this is what all my friends listen to, so we go and party. But I'm kind of the same as you, where it was just, once I found it, that was just it for me. And I
that
didn't
was it.
really, it didn't matter what anyone else was doing. It was just, this is the thing for me.
That was it. And yeah, because in Mexico City, honestly, you don't, up until this day, you don't have a lot of bass music in general. So imagine like back then, it was just impossible. It was just impossible to actually go to a concert and listen to dubstep or bass. It was just, no, it wasn't happening. So I was just like, I think paving my own way, just making my own way through music and through what I liked back then. And I remember I was one of the few first DJs to ever play bass music here in Mexico City, because there wasn't a scene like the one that is kind of building right now. So I've always wanted to be like that kid, that weird kid that had this like special.
Yeah. You liked it. You
Like,
liked being the one who had the secret kind of thing.
I liked it.
Yeah, that's great. I felt the same way. I know, I relate to what you're saying. Was your dad a musician? What was his studio for?
No, he has a studio because no, he's not a musician. He just received clients because he has like he does business. He's like, I don't know how to say it in English. He was running his business. He got like his own like studio where he met his clients and they will talk and stuff.
Like
But
his
it was
own little
like
office
studio.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Like an office studio / yeah.
Yeah. I see. I got you.
Yeah.
That's it.
But
Was there
so
anyone
big,
else
I
in the
was-
family? Anyone else in the family who did music? Anyone else like play instruments, or were you the sort of the odd one out?
No, it's just me. I honestly don't know what happened because no one in my family does music. And my cousin from Spain, she plays guitar, but she learned it on YouTube like by herself. So I don't know, something happened in there because I was always between psychology and music, right? But being a little kid from Mexico, and then my dad will always tell me like, once you give me your psychology degree, then you can do whatever you want. And I do love psychology. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I just wanted to do it and then be like 100% into music once I did it.
Right. The psychology thing, was there ever, so, you go to school for psychology, you get your degree. After that, had you already decided it was music? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just don't see myself being a psychologist, having like an office right now. I just don't see myself. And I love psychology so much, but I love clinic psychology, which is the one where you go to the psychiatric wards and just, where you're like in touch with psychiatrists, and not just like being a therapist myself, but being in touch with like mental illness. That's what I wanted to do, just go to psychiatric wards and stay with the psychiatrists and be the one who's like doing the therapy, but also working with them with medicines and all that shit. Like, I always been drawn to mental illness overall. I just love, not love in a creepy way, but I just love observing people.
Yeah.
And just see why they do the things they do, what lead to a person to become what he is right now. And I feel like as a DJ, I see 50,000 people in the crowd, and I just love reading them, like, oh, they're having a good time, or maybe they're not having such a good time. I might switch the song a little bit or the vibe,
Yeah.
I am kind of a therapist in a way.
No, absolutely.
You have to deal with all these emotions, with people in front of you just wanting to have the best time ever and forget about their problems too. So
Well,
I just love
don't you feel
yeah.
like DJs too, like when you start meeting a lot of other DJs and producers, like we're all crazy in some way. And
Yeah.
there's so many DJs I meet where, and some of my favorite people, but all interesting characters. And I would say there's so many of them where I'm like, either you're on the spectrum, or you have some kind of addictive personality that you've kind of managed to like corral into this DJ life. Like, I don't know, to take it back to what we were saying earlier of how this lifestyle is sort of not a normal human thing. I sort of feel like it attracts people whose personalities or brains might be just like a little skewed,
A little weird. 100%. You meet all these DJs, and I've met all these DJs, and we all have like this thing in common where we want to like, how do I say it? Like, we want to give people, like, in a way, our happiness. We want to be able to communicate through our music.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Yeah.
Yes.
Communicate through the music, and like it's a weird thing for me. It's like almost like a voyeuristic thing of like, if we can create this feeling or this emotion together, like me and a crowd and all that, then for me, that's almost, maybe this isn't healthy now I'm saying it, but it's like, that's almost better than like me just feeling the emotion myself. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, it has to be with like some super powerful outlet for ourselves too.
Yeah.
For whatever
100%.
is going on our lives, we just enjoy draining all of that with music.
Yeah, 100%. Sure. And yeah, we're always tourists in other people's lives, where you just sort of pop into a city and you play a crazy show and you get all this stuff out, and then you just leave, and like they go on with their lives. It's weird.
It's so weird. It's like this. I feel like we live like this, like boom, 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 now go there, now blah, 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 right? It's like, it's so hard for us to actually connect with something. So when we're on the stage, that's like our happiness, That's where we can be ourselves, and that's where we can actually connect. Because otherwise you're traveling and saying hi to people and then goodbye to people, and then again, you're getting into their lives and coming out of their lives, But on stage, we have you guys, and like we have all of the public, and it just at least for me, that's the connection that I think I was born to.
Yeah. I know what you mean. And I think too, what you were saying earlier about like staying in Mexico City and sort of staying close to your roots there, I think that probably helps too with the feeling disconnected. And like, I think for anybody listening, that's just a good tip in general, is like, you have to find some sort of piece of normalcy you can hold on to that kind of balances the scales,
Oh my God, yes. Because imagine if I would just tour the fucking hell and then coming back to maybe a house in LA all by myself.
Yeah.
That would be like, it would be so harsh for me. Because right now, my boyfriend, my family, my dogs, they just keep me so grounded. And I'm so happy to be able to say that I'm Mexican, and that because of the way I was raised, I am who I am right now, because in Mexico City is just so different from the US. I can see it from the people I talk to every single time I'm there. Here in Mexico, it was kind of rough, because we see all these things happening on the news, like some cartel stuff or some kidnapping stuff, or, overall in the news here in Mexico City are just always like, they're harsh,
Yeah.
So in a way, as the little kids growing up, we just kind of like, we get to grow with that and to learn that it's kind of dangerous, and we build this personality, to like be strong in a way. And our moms and our dads are always like take care of yourself or whatever. So I feel like in a way, just by being born in Mexico City, it just makes you stronger.
Yeah, I believe that. I
You know?
totally believe that. Yeah. Yeah. And I think in sort of unconscious ways, I'm sure that goes into sort of what attracts people to what you do as an artist too, right?
Mhm.
Not that you listen to a song you make and you're like, oh, like a Mexican woman made that song, but there's something in the DNA of your music that I think, it has to come from your experiences, your childhood, all that. And I think I don't know what it is, but it's something that makes it identifiable as you, right?
Yes. And it all comes with the bringing and the context of where I was when I was a little kid, and the way I relate to people. It's because of how I was raised too here. I feel like I'm kind of like super raw in a way and real with people, and I would just come to people and talk to them and like, hey, what's up? And they're like, why are you like so nice in a way? But I was taught to be like this in a way. So everything I am is because of my upbringing here in Mexico City.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I think that's great. And I mean, how do you feel, you mentioned earlier when you were starting off that like bass music in Mexico really just wasn't even much of a thing. And I know at this point, I mean, you're throwing your own festivals there. You've got the Madhouse Festival, and I saw some pictures from it. Like you're in arenas, like these are big deals. Do you feel like it's changed at all at this point? Like, is there more bass music at this point in Mexico?
Oh yeah, there is. And I feel like because I didn't have that chance when I was growing up playing dubstep, I feel like I had to do it. I had to do something for me and for my artists, for my label, to actually expose their work. The first ever Madhouse was on a 200 cap venue, and it was just for the sake of exposing like what we're doing with the Mexican talents here in Mexico City. It was just that. It wasn't planned as a party or anything. The thing is that it got so full and it got so packed that the people were asking for one more, right? But the main thing about that Madhouse, it was just about a records artist, which is my label, so that people can actually listen to them play, because there wasn't anything else. If I would play dubstep on a club here in Mexico City, they will just kick me out. There was no way. So I felt kind of tired. I was like, why can we have something for us? Like some smaller gigs, maybe every month or something, because I feel bad also for my artists. I feel like they're so talented and they can't play their own music anywhere. So I felt kind of like in the need to do something about it. And I don't know, I just felt like it started growing up to a point where it's like a festival right now. But it grew from people wanting to hear bass music more in here, because we didn't have that. I wish when I was growing up that someone would throw a festival and say, hey, do you want to play at a festival here in Mexico City? I would be like so happy.
Yeah.
But there wasn't. So I had to I have to throw my own path into making the bass music scene here in Mexico grow in a way. It's not just me, it's my label, it's my entire team just working together for the bass music scene in Mexico to change and to grow. That's what we want.
Well, and I mean, it's awesome to see what you've been able to do and your whole team with that. It's interesting though, because I feel like both, you mentioned your label, A Records, which you started that pretty early on, right? Like that's, 2015, 2016, something like that.
It was just a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And, that plus like throwing these events, which have now turned into these big festivals, doing those sorts of things, I think some people would be intimidated by like, well, I'm a DJ, but now I'm going to start a label and I'm going to throw a party and, all these things.
Yeah.
Did you just kind of learn as you were doing it? Like, are you just the kind of person who just like dives in the deep end? You know what I mean? With those kinds of big projects?
I honestly don't know what happens in my mind, but I'm always thinking about what's going up next. Like right now, I'm thinking about what to do next for Madhouse or whatever, and it's not even happening yet.
Yeah.
But I'm always like, for the record label, which is A Records, I started it to help my friends and to also help myself in a way, because I didn't want it to wait to international labels to say yes or no to my song after like 6 months that I sent the demo. I was like, no, I want to like keep releasing my stuff. I had a bunch of music back then, and I was like, no, I'm gonna do our label, and I'm gonna release it. I don't care. Like I'm not gonna wait for a label. So that's why A Records was born. And then I feel like in a way I've always wanted to help others, So that's how Madhouse came up. And then it all started with this idea of growing the bass scene. I think that was it. There was not, it is not another reason why Madhouse Festival exists other than me and my team wanted to grow the bass scene here in Mexico, because there wasn't anything. And for me, luckily, I have an agent from the US, and I can get to the US and play, or Canada or Europe, whatever. But the rest of the people who lives here in Mexico, they don't have that chance.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like the necessity to help them in a way,
Well, and getting that visa is hard to do. It's expensive.
It's so hard.
I like US artists are spoiled because we can kind of go anywhere.
I know.
It's not the same, and I think people forget
my
that.
US friends, I'm like, you're so lucky, dude. You don't have to pay taxes. You don't have to pay visas and all that. That it's a pain in the ass. Like a few years ago, I had to travel to to Frankfurt in Germany just to get my visa.
Wow.
Because during all this COVID thing, and it's just a lot of money, but it is what it is.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure for you, even traveling now, you fly into the States every weekend. You have to go through extra security, all that.
Oh, my God. Yes, I hate that. And I get the TSA because I'm not from the US.
Right.
So I can't have it. Otherwise, trust me, I'll have TSA. I don't care. I'll have it because I have to go through that every single weekend, So in the US, artists from the US, you're really lucky. You're really lucky.
100%. And I want to make sure you made a great point earlier too, talking about I just wanted to grow the bass scene in Mexico, and I was frustrated, and I didn't want to wait for labels to give approval. I just wanted to put music out. Again, for anybody listening, it's important to point out, just because not everybody makes these choices, but it's like for anything you do, I think that's so important, is that if you feel like you have a good idea, or if you feel like you're ready to go with something, you can't always wait for permission. Sometimes you really just have to build it yourself, even if you make a lot of mistakes, even if it doesn't always work. You'll learn something in the process, and then it just pushes the ball forward. I think it's cool you just did that off the bat.
Yeah, I think a lot of the artists you see up there headlining festivals, they just have something different, and it's that they will follow their dreams no matter what. They don't wait for anyone. It's just, let's do it. Don't wait for it. And I feel like they have pretty original ideas, and instead of just instead of just being a normal musician, artist, whatever, you have to think outside the box. I know being in a comfort zone, it feels so nice in a way where you're like, okay, you're touring, you get some money, but what are you gonna do next? Are you gonna stay there like your entire career, or do you want something else? You know,
Yeah,
and
100%.
you have to think outside the box and just think of ways of improving yourself. And if in the way you get to help others, then do it. You know, I always tell myself that I feel like I don't grow like this. I feel like I grow like this because
Yeah.
I have like a bunch of people with me that I'm so grateful for and that I'm also helping them, but they're helping me too, you know, grow this scene in a way. So it's not just me.
Right,
Maybe,
right.
I don't
Yeah, I mean, it never is, but at the same time, somebody's
Yeah.
got to be the person who just like pushes everything forward, you know?
For sure.
And
For sure.
well, how did you, talking about this whole journey of it, when did production come in? Like, what was your journey as far as learning how to actually make dance music?
So I was DJing for a while now here in Mexico City. And then I got a new management, Yusuf and Dwayne. And then they were like, okay, Jazz, yeah, you're like a pretty good DJ or whatever. But you do need to make music. And I was like, dude, I do need to make music in order for me to actually like get outside of Mexico, you know? So I just enrolled myself in school. I just went to which is a really famous school here in Mexico City for music and cinema, you know?
Cinema, yeah.
Yeah. And then I was there for half a year studying music production. And then I met some friends who were also producers. They will help me too. But then I met my current boyfriend, who is Mao, and we met at the school, at the music production school. He was studying audio engineer, and I was studying music production. So honestly, he's like all of the doubts that I have, like really deep doubts about the entire thing. He will help me out so much because he's an engineer.
Right.
But yeah, it all started because if you're a DJ, there's not much you can do. You can just play like clubs here and then that's it. So
Right.
I wanted to grow myself. And so I enrolled myself into the school.
That makes sense. Yeah, it makes total sense. That's very cute that you met your boyfriend at the school there. And that's nice. I mean, that's got to feel nice to sort of have a partner in life that's also sort of a partner in music and, someone who you really, really trust, not just as a musical peer, but as, just a friend and all that. That's got to be really nice too.
It's so helpful. It's so helpful because obviously studying engineer is like almost 5 years. And that's a whole different level of music production. So every single doubt that I have, I'm so lucky that he's here and he will like, okay, do this and do that and do that. So it's really helpful. I'm really grateful.
Of course. Yeah, no, it's awesome. I think that's super valuable. And it makes me want to ask you sort of, I was going through Spotify and listening to your whole discography. And over the years, your sound has had a pretty big evolution, I think.
Yeah.
Like all the way up to... like even all the way up to the collab with Adventure Club that you just put out, which is really great. And those are buddies of mine. I love those guys. And
they're the best.
They are the best. But yeah, all of that is to say, do you feel like you're sort of always evolving the sound? Do you have sort of a vision of where it's going?
I felt like when I started releasing on Circus, which was the very first international label, they understood my sound pretty well because I wanted to do that OG dubstep sound because of what I told you when I first listened to dubstep that I fell in love with.
Yeah.
So I wanted to keep that OG dubstep sound, but in a more fresh way, like current dubstep or whatever. And I felt like Circus understood that really well, and they would let me like do all these releases with them that I up to this day. I love them, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Then I started releasing like more on that path, you know, like that OG dubstep song, but with fresher sounds. But what I was into ever since I started was just melodic stuff, you know? But for one way or another, I just couldn't do melodic that well, you know? And right now, I feel like I need to do it. You know, I feel like I need to do it. I love just throwing vocals into my tracks and like live instruments and just add something something new to my sound, you know? And that's
Yeah.
the melodic path that I wanted to take from now on.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, I scrolled all the way back to like your very first releases on Spotify and like, you know, way back to even like 2013 when there's a couple house music songs.
Pretty melodic.
I was about to say those have actually a really strong melodic sense. And I think it's interesting that maybe those tendencies were kind of always there. And it's
always
just
there.
Takes a while to sort of work back around to them.
The thing is that if you go to one of my sets, you will find maybe like 50% melodic and then the rest is going to be like harsh dubstep, because I do love melodic, but I don't want to keep that harsh dubstep away from me because I love it so much too, you know? So I want to bring like the best of both worlds in a way for me. And that's what I want to do, I think, from now on. Yes.
Well, I think you're good at doing that. And while I was listening to your music, like your whole discography, I was trying to figure out, and I don't think I really have a good way to describe it, but sort of what we've been talking about this whole time of like drawing together different influences. You were talking about, you know, the older dubstep, you liked sort of the bounce, the reggae influence from that. And I think you are very good at sort of mixing those styles, you know, updating it, keeping it modern, but still being able to reference sort of where it comes from and what influenced you in a way that I don't know. A lot of dubstep in 2023, I get frustrated with because I think it just doesn't really connect to what came before. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I don't know. I think you do that in a really nice way. I don't know exactly what you do, but to me, it connects through the eras without being sort of corny or just referential. You know what I mean?
I do feel dubstep has evolved so much. So much. Now I feel like a lot of dubstep right now is basically distortion, which is fun in a way too. That dubstep live is just wow.
Yeah,
people
it's crazy.
So crazy. And I do appreciate it so much. But I'm more like a sustain kind of person, you know? I feel like one note, sustain, bass that's the thing for me. I love to keep it simple in a way, but also like pretty skankier, you know, like in a mood where, yes, it's dubstep, but it's not going to be like all noises, like with no sense, you know?
Well, yeah, now that we're talking about it, I think that's maybe what it is. I think regardless of the style or how aggressive it is in your music, there is always, there's some sense of groove in it. There's some sense of that like propulsive thing, you know?
It's just that groove, you know? If one of my songs doesn't have that groove or that vibe to it, which is like pretty like funky, I don't like it. Because I feel like it's kind of boring for me, you know? For me to play a song with like no groove or maybe some melody over here, some cool vocal over there is just, to me, is like boring. But I do like to, in my sets, I do like to mix a lot of that harsh dubstep stuff with my own stuff. And I feel like that's a pretty fun set.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
People don't get bored. They're like, blah, blah, blah. And then it comes a melody and they're like, oh my God, yes, I can chill for a minute. You know? Like a roller coaster. My sets are always like roller coasters. And as I told you, I love to observe people, and just by looking at them, I just know like when to drop maybe like a song of mine and when to drop something with like tons of distortion in them, but it really depends on the mood. But yeah, my songs are like pretty groovy dubstep style.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's at this point, like we said, you've been doing this for a long time, but it does feel like you've sort of carved out that identity for yourself, where you can experiment and make songs in different styles, but there is that core of it that still feels like you,
Yes, I think so. I hope so.
Well, and you mentioned that, Circus Records and Flux Pavilion were some of the like early bigger names that like really took notice. Do you remember how they found you? Do you remember like how they reached out to you in the first place?
That's such a funny story. I was in Valencia in Spain, and then I was with some friends, and they showed me a tweet from Flux saying, go vote for Jessica Audiffred for DJ Mag Top 100. And I was like, what? What do you mean? He knows me?
Yeah, like before you had ever talked to him. On? Yeah.
Those were like my earliest DJs years, and I looked up for them, but I've never reached out to them or my management. And then I showed that tweet to my management, and they're like, oh, okay, so maybe we can just get in contact with his team or whatever and just start something. And that was it. It was just because I think he listened to my remix of To You by Jack Q. I did a remix, and then he listened to it on my SoundCloud, and I think he liked it. And he told people to vote for me on the D8 Mac.
That's great. Well, he's a great dude, man, because he's been on this show, really interesting guy, but he's always putting on for like smaller artists, always just sort of supporting people, even if it's not something on his label. Like, I always admire that, where he'll just shout out people he thinks are doing good work.
He is such an amazing person. I remember the first time I played on Bass Canyon, I was supposed to do a back-to-back with Excision. And I was so nervous because it was one of my earliest gigs in the US. And it was a back-to-back with Excision. So what the fuck? And Flux was just finishing his set for us to go into the stage. And he would look up to me and he was like, hey, Jess, you got this. Like, don't be nervous. You got this. Like, we're all rooting for you. And that gave me so much comfort, in a way, to have him supporting me on such a big stage. But he always tries to help everyone. He's such a nice dude, for sure.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, and then my management just reached out to them, and they offer me an EP on Circus, and they offer me to do an official remix of their song. It was his song with Nightmare, Feel Your Love.
Right.
And then an official remix, and that was it. I was just signed to Circus. Just just like that.
That's the best. I mean, if you think back to like, a moment like that, or a moment like, doing Bass Canyon with Excision, these early firsts, were there any others that come to mind as far as like, this was a big turning point, or like looking back, this actually had a bigger impact than I realized kind of moments?
Yeah, I feel like the three artists who supported me the most when I was just starting, one is Flux, one is Excision, and then the other one is Riot 10. Because he offered me my first ever US tour. It was his tour, obviously. And then that's when I realized like how things moves in the US,
Right.
Especially like during touring and stuff. So I feel like I owe to them like a lot. And now that I think about it, I just feel so happy because I just play a back-to-back with Riot 10. We have a collab. I have a collab with Excision, and I have one more collab coming up with Flux. So it's just full circle right now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's insane. It just come up to me like right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, those three artists are the one who actually like supported me the most, and I owe them a lot, you know?
Well, and I think it's cool that, you were talking earlier about like A records and these festivals that you're putting on at this point, where even if that isn't your intention at the start, probably you'll be able to play that role for somebody else eventually, you know?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I started DJing, I never saw myself playing big festivals, or I didn't even think about bigger festivals to me. I was just so in love with the music that I wanted to be a part of it. I never thought of myself being a touring DJ or whatever. I wanted to play that shit so much in all the clubs in Mexico City and just get to new ears, you know? That's what I wanted to do. And then eventually, if you work hard, that will come up to you.
Yeah.
Like playing bigger gigs and stuff. But it wasn't on my mind since day one. It wasn't on my little Mexican little girl mind to play outside even Mexico, you know?
Yeah.
So everything that happens to me, I'm just so grateful because I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think that would be possible for me.
That's beautiful. I mean, it makes me want to ask at this point, like things are going well. You're touring heavily. It seems like you're getting a lot of buzz. Everything's building, everything's growing. What is it right now that is making you excited? That is like pushing you forward in the same way that when you were starting, it was just that love of the music. Like, what's the driving factor now?
Right now, I think my goal is to release more melodic stuff and get to be on main stages, like those night slots on main stages, and be a woman playing bass music in those stages, be like that melodic female dubstep / whatever.
Yeah.
I want to be that female who's like playing every single main stage with my melodic songs, but still dubstep, I want to be that.
That's a great goal. That's a really good answer.
Right
yeah.
now.
No,
obviously just grow my festival, maybe to make it 2 days and do it outdoors and have, I don't know, just grow the festival and A records too.
Sure, of course. All of these are great goals. And the woman thing, like bass music, I think, of course, is looked at stereotypically as like a macho thing. It is male dominated, unfortunately, at the moment. But what's your experience with that? Like, have you felt sort of excluded, or just like you had to work a little harder to make it as a woman in bass music?
Honestly, I haven't got any issue, but I do notice that being a female, you get like more spotlight. But the thing about that is that you have to know how to keep that spotlight in you. You have to be consistent. It cannot be like, oh, she's a female and I'm going to book her for my festival because whatever, right?
Yeah.
You have to be consistent and you have to keep up with your career up to the point where they're like, oh, she actually deserves a slot, And I just feel like more women needs to produce more, It has grown over the years, but before it was like maybe 5 of them. Now we're more, thank God. But I would love to see more, I would love to tour with some women.
Yeah.
Instead of just being around males all the time, I would love to
100%. Yeah, well, and I mean, it's awesome. Representation does matter. So it's just great that you're doing it in general, because I think just other women seeing you or any other woman up there, that helps build the whole thing. But to make one point off of what you just said, even what you said as far as like you get a spotlight and then you sort of have to justify that attention, and like prove yourself a little. Even that is a little bit of something that dudes don't have to go through, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, someone might give like someone a slot and it's a male and no one's gonna ask why is he there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's not to
For us
fulfill a
women,
quota. It's not for diversity, you know. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what? Even if they were like some assumptions about me or whatever, I've never listened to them. I've never cared. I've never like I've only had like a goal in my mind, and is to play like the best set ever for the people who is buying a ticket to see me or who's there at the festival and went to see me instead of another artist. For me, the only thing that I care is just to give like the most amazing set for me. And if people is talking shit or whatever, I don't care. I don't care. Like, okay, I'm here because I earned it, and because I know I earned it, I don't feel as like discriminated or something.
Of course, of course, and that's the right attitude, absolutely. And you know, I don't think you have to prove yourself to anybody at this point. It's pretty well established. But well, this has been awesome. I mean, I'm looking at my notes here. Is there anything else that is on your mind? Anything else you want to talk about before I kind of start wrapping it up here?
We can just talk about maybe Tomorrowland or Shaq's collab.
Oh yeah, I did want to talk about the Shaq thing too, because I remember I saw that post he made when when he just somehow he heard your music and then made this post that was just like, I must meet this woman.
Happens to me because of a tweet. Also, the Adventure Club collab, it started because of a tweet. But anyway, so I don't know how, but Shaq just found out that I have a records and that we're building like a scene here in Mexico for bass music and for the little kids or whatever. And he was like, oh my God, so I need to have something with her. Like, we need to collab. And I was like, is this for real? I was showing this to like my friends. My mom even called me, my mom. She was like, what do you mean? Like, Shaq, the NBA? And I'm like, dude, this is getting out of control. So the same happened. My management contact their management. And so now we have a collab.
That's amazing.
He's really kind. He's such a nice dude. He also helps a lot of upcoming artists too, which is amazing. And he's going to host his own stage at Tomorrowland. That's where I'm playing. And I just feel so grateful, because when will you imagine that you're going to have like a collab with Shaq? Yeah. Like the legend.
I mean, his whole dubstep arc is just great to me. It just makes me happy because, I mean, he was a DJ before he was an NBA player, you know, so he's been doing this forever. But it's cool to see him sort of come back to the first love, and and you can tell it's just pure. He doesn't have to do this. He just likes it.
Dubstep so much. You can tell.
He just loves it. It's great.
He just wake up someday he was like, I'm gonna play dubstep. But dude, we're all grateful for it, because honestly, he's such a like breath of fresh air to the dub scene, you know.
Yeah, it just seems like a positive force, you know.
He's so yeah.
Have you talked to him much, like while doing the collab and all that?
We talk like on Instagram, but not that much. I don't want to be like, you know, like that girl is like talking a lot. But we talk about the collab, and then after that, not so much. But I'm sure I'll see him at Lost Lands, or I mean, obviously Tomorrowland. Yeah. So let's see what happens.
It's cool to just see somebody who's had the life that he's had, lots of crazy experiences, and you can tell he's still stoked about what he's doing. He's still passionate. Yeah. He never lost the excitement for it. Like, I think we can all learn something from that.
100%. Yes.
I love that. Well, this has been awesome. Is there anything else? Yeah. I feel like the collab with Adventure Club, we talked about that a little bit. Yeah. Is there anything else we should say about that too? I really like that too. And
that release is going to be the first release ever with me and Monstercat. But I do have now, I am a part of Monstercat now after that release, which makes me really happy.
They're
because
great.
Monstercat, yeah, that has been a dream label for me since like years ago. And now I'm going to be a part of them too. And it makes me so excited for all the releases that are coming with them and for all the events that I have with them too. And I cannot wait to see what happens with Monstercat and me and Jessica.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they're great. Shout out to Monstercat. And
Yes.
well, yeah, I guess I'll just wrap this up. I have a question, the same question I ask at the end of each one of these interviews, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay.
Just looking for a memory from your life, a moment from your life. Could be from any time, could be from when you were a kid, last week, whenever, doesn't matter. When in that memory, in that moment, music really had a deep impact on you, really meant something to you in that moment, is a moment you think about sometimes. It could be, the right song played while you were walking on a sunny day and it was a good memory. It could be a song you listened to with your family when you were a kid or a concert you saw. No wrong answer, kind of just the first thing you think of.
My first ever festival show in Mexico City, it was Above and Beyond. And before them, there was some other DJ, like an opener, and I was enjoying myself, right? But when Above and Beyond came to the stage and started playing, I was like, what is this? I fell in love instantly. I still think about it up to this day. And I remember I didn't even talk to my friends that much. I was just staring at them, not even drinking. I was just staring at them and just listening to all this amazing melodic stuff and trance music, of course. And I was like, dude, I want to be there someday.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's those kind of moments. It's like,
They're
something.
so
Yeah, they're incredible. And I feel like, don't you feel like you're still chasing those moments to this day?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Every time I get a chance to see Above and Beyond at a festival, I just go. Even if my friends don't want to go, just because I feel like I'm chasing that moment,
Yeah. No, 100%. And that feeling of it's almost like, you open a door and what you didn't even realize was there. And then all of a sudden there's this whole world behind it. Those kind of moments of discovery. It's like, yeah, that's beautiful. That's why we all do this.
Yes.
What'd you say?
Those moments are the best. They are. Be in your memory forever.
Yeah, that's what it all is. Okay, and now we've come full circle because we started off talking about it's really all about the few memories that we take with us throughout this. I think that's the best way to wrap it up is it's great that you're still here doing it. You're making those memories for yourself and probably making them for other people. And it's beautiful, man. I'm glad you're doing it. I'm stoked to see what you're going to do next.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the interview. It has been such a nice talk.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll see you somewhere.
Yeah, I'll see you somewhere out there. No doubt it'll happen. And thank you for taking the time to do it. I really appreciate it. It's great to talk to you.
Sorry for the delay at the beginning. Thank you so much.
No. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.